What's going on, guys? It's Nick from Almost Canon. So I sort of just kind of blew my own mind. I was thinking about Wendigos and Skinwalkers, right? Now, we'll start with the Skinwalker. Where did the original practitioners of this dark magic, where did they learn this magic to begin with? And the Skinwalker isn't some sort of werewolf-like being. No, it's a witch. It's a practitioner of dark magic who has to curse themselves in order to learn the way of the Skinwalker, right? They have to murder a family member if they want to become a Skinwalker. Now, where did they learn this magic to begin with? Now, I believe this is where these race of giants come in, and they're called the Starnake people, and they're these master miners. Apparently, they possessed some sort of ancient technology that allowed them to kind of master the West through mining. I don't, there's not a whole lot, and I haven't read a whole lot about them, but one way or another, I believe, much like any North American giant, they're related to the Nephilim. And when you think of the Nephilim, you think of how they were teaching mankind all this good stuff that we're not supposed to know, right? Especially when it comes to technologies that they're not supposed to have, like the Starnake people. So, did the Starnake people, beings, did they teach the way of the Skinwalker? Makes a lot of sense. Now, when you think of the Wendigo, and the Wendigo can be a little tricky, right? It's not this starving zombie deer with these gnarly antlers on the top of its head. No. What the Wendigo actually is, because that the deer antler being is Hollywoodized. Some dude wrote about it in a book 100 years ago, and it kind of took off from there. Marvel got their hands on it, and back in the 60s, and it kind of just took off from there into what we see today. But no, the Wendigo is actually kind of just like a starving zombie entity. Now, when you break the Wendigo down, there's two different types of Wendigos, but at the same time, they're the same thing. Now, when you get out towards the west, the Wendigo becomes this starving zombie being. When you get to the east, kind of towards where I am, Maine, the Micmac and the Abenaki here in Vermont, the Wendigo becomes an ice giant, right? And the perfect example of this, and this is also Hollywoodized, is the movie The Pet Cemetery. Now, we touched upon this in our Pet Cemetery review when Lois, I believe he's bringing Gage to the Pet Cemetery. He comes across the Wendigo, and it's this towering giant that towers above the trees. It's crashing through the woods. That is what a Wendigo is, more in the east. An ice giant is what it's usually described as, and they don't really give an exact height because the Wendigo, apparently it grows. Every human that it eats, it gets a little bigger. Now, what really blew my mind is the Wendigo, when it's in this spirit form that is able to possess individuals and turn them into Wendigos, is that Wendigo spirit actually a Nephilim? Right? I don't know. Does that make sense to anyone? Makes sense to me. So, let's say someone is, they have to partake in cannibalism or do something that gathers the attention of the Wendigo. Is that Wendigo actually the disembodied spirit of a Nephilim? And then, it possesses this individual, turning them into a Wendigo. Or, for sake of argument, a Nephilim. Makes a lot of sense to me. Kind of blew my mind. I'd always wondered where, this magic came from. Because, the Wendigo curse is a curse. It had to have originated somewhere. And I could never really picture exactly where that came from until I got to thinking, we have these Nephilim, these Wendigo giants here in the East. Is that giant actually a Nephilim? And is it able to possess another individual? Makes a lot of sense. I hope you understand. I probably... No one probably knows what I'm talking about. I probably just rambled on for the last 6 minutes. Makes a lot of sense to me. Kind of blew my mind. Definitely sounds almost canon.